'Tis night in this big, busy city. Mid the thousands, I'm lost and alone, and my thoughts keep drifting back to you, dear, and the old western home that I have known. When the flowers of Montana are blooming, and the meadowlark is building its nest, where the snow-white peaks are looming, for my old prairie home in the west. I'm dreaming tonight in the big city lights of a sweetheart I left there so divine. When the flowers of Montana are blooming, I'll be coming back to you, sweetheart of mine. I remember where I stood the night I left him. The moon was shining bright upon the plain. Years have passed and still I found no other, and I long to see my old sweetheart again. When the flowers of Montana are blooming, and the meadowlark is building its nest, where the snow-white peaks are looming, for my old prairie home in the west. I'm dreaming tonight in the big city lights of a sweetheart I left there so divine. When the flowers of Montana are blooming, I'll be coming back to you, sweetheart of mine. I'll be coming back to you, sweetheart of mine.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Wickens, and I am from Montana, and I am very proud to be speaking with you all today and appreciate you tuning in. So I guess I can start with just a little bit more about myself. I'm a fourth generation Montanan, and my kids are fifth generation. All four sides of my family actually homesteaded in Montana. So when I went to put this together, I was a little overwhelmed with all the talking points, because all parts of my family are very different. One side of my family came directly from Albania, and another side of the family came from Kentucky, and another one came from Indiana. So growing up, I had a very diverse idea of just what normal was, I think, in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, I guess I'm trying to describe something that's complex, but I'll do the best that I can to hopefully show you guys just that Montana is known for its cowboys and beautiful landscapes, but really there's a lot of cultural layers underneath that are very interesting, very, very complex. So this is an image I took of where I grew up in north central Montana, and it's a part of the state that not a lot of people venture out to because it's so far away from any of the urban centers, and there's really nothing out there. What makes it unique is you can see from the picture there's like rolling plains, And then there's these mountain ranges that pop up kind of out of the prairie, call them the Little Rockies. So for those of you that just are not familiar, we border Canada, and I grew up close enough to the border that culturally, even when you're venturing to Canada for any reason, we're basically the same exact people with slightly different accents. We're the fourth largest state in the country. We've got just over 1.1 million people. And that happened fairly recent, actually. Over COVID, we saw a pretty large influx of folks that moved here. We are the largest landlocked state in the U.S. and roughly the same size as countries like Japan, Germany, and Norway. The other thing about Montana that with the just sheer amount of landmass that we have, 60% of our state's land is in agriculture. So we are very, very much an egg-based state with tourism has now eclipsed actually our egg recently as well. But very active on the land in Montana, and that's a huge part of our history and something that my family is very proud to continue to work on the land and not just work on it, but preserve it through different regenerative ag practices. And this is my brother Eric standing on the homestead. My brother Eric he's on the ranch and running the program, running the ranch, and has been doing regenerative ag practices for over 20 years now. So what we're most famous for, I would say, when people think of Montana, I think they think of Yellowstone for sure, and rightfully so. It is very unique, and even though I grew up here and I currently live about an hour and a half from Yellowstone, I'll still take the family 2 or 3 times a year, and it never isn't beautiful and awe-inspiring. Now, I will say that given the option between Yellowstone and Glacier, I would pick Glacier, and that's only because it's hard to even put into words like how stunning the mountains are and just how wild the landscape is up in western Montana, up in Glacier National Park. Now, if my brother knew that I posted this, he would not be happy. Makes him look a little like a redneck, but I love this picture because it just captures a real picture of Montana ranch culture. And that's my nephew, also looking a little rough. He kept a mullet for like 4 years, which I approved of that. So when I was putting this together, this was the hardest part because we have such a long and not very good history with our indigenous people here in Montana. So many different treaties and and just catastrophes across the board. And also my family, all four sides, were a part of this, capturing of the land and putting it into an agricultural process that had never, that the land had never seen for eons, thousands and thousands of years. And then all of a sudden, here we are, these all different types of people from all different parts of the world. And, all these tribes, not just in Montana, of course, but all over the country were just displaced and mistreated, and continue to be mistreated for a very long time. But instead of focusing on that, because I think that's at this point pretty well understood, that the way it happened and how it happened is not something that's fun to talk about. But the fact that there is hard evidence that puts especially the Crow and the Blackfeet at least 12,000 years on this land is something that's, I think, incredible. I mean, it's hard to even imagine. For 12,000 years, they lived with the land and with the seasons. And Montana is just a very unforgiving landscape. So it takes a lot of skill and a lot of just endurance to move with the seasons around here. And so today there are 7 tribes, 7 reservations that are in Montana. And recently the Little Shell were given recognition, Métis, which essentially were multiple different tribes over a long period of time that had intermarried with fur traders from Canada. And I just have nothing but respect for the indigenous people of Montana, and want to touch on that for sure. This is another shot from the ranch, from where I grew up, just to kind of show how the landscape is so just wide open and expansive. Okay, so what happened from thousands of years of indigenous people just traveling with the buffalo herds, with the seasons through Montana? No one really inhabited one place full time. There was a tribe that lived in and around Yellowstone, that they think may have been there, or not has been, or may not have traveled as much. But for the most part, it was many different tribes that were just kind of moving throughout the West here. So in 1862, after the Civil War, the Homestead Act was put into place, and it took a while. It took quite a while, because when people did come out very early, they were met with resistance from a lot of different tribes, and that started the first forts that came in Montana. And what's really crazy is that today, this house I'm sitting in was a part of one of those forts. It's called Fort Ellis, and this is where I live now, is where the blacksmith lived. And this fort was set up specifically to protect the homesteaders that were coming out here and trade through the Bozeman Trail. One of my favorite stories is my great grandpa John Wickens brought one of the first steam-powered tractors out to Montana, and he was an entrepreneur. So a part of the deal with getting your land once you claimed it, excuse me, is that you had to firm it up, which meant you had to put a plow in the ground. And so they would pay my great grandpa to take care of their land, put a plow in it, and he lived in a boxcar that he pulled with the steam tractor for many years. This is another shot of my nieces just out riding horses. Okay, so local culture in Montana is very much, truly is community based. There's, when the railroad came through Montana, there was a lot of what we call railroad towns that were set up just all throughout the state that had granaries and were really just places for people to stop and rest, and for farmers to haul their grain to the granary, so then the grain could be transported from the train. And that created this like network of towns that were always fairly small. Some of them, saw a bit of a boom period, like when wheat was, a high value cash crop, and cattle and beef. But ultimately, when the railroad went away and stopped running, you had this whole network of towns throughout Montana that kind of no longer had that lifeline to economy. And it forced this interesting dynamic where, really just out of necessity more than anything, everybody truly relies to this day on each other. So it's the economics of small town Montana are pretty dire, but the community resilience and just culture that's created is very special, for sure. I put in this picture of basketball because, like, especially basketball in Montana, in these small towns is like, it's life. It really gives like the whole state something to rally around, and same with rodeo as well, of course. These are just pictures of some cows we have at our feedlot. I run a direct-to-consumer beef program with my brothers, and I live in Bozeman, Montana. I should have said that maybe from the beginning. And the ranch is about 3.5 hours north of where I'm at. So what I did for our beef business is worked here in the community that I've been in for about 20 years now, to provide our beef to local restaurants. A lot of it is just also direct to consumer. So we deliver directly to people's houses. And that was fun. That was COVID. That came out of COVID for me, because I still do. I run a music venue. I saw at the beginning that I was listed as a singer-songwriter, which I am, but I really do that as just out of a joy and love for writing and playing music. But my profession is venue owner, and it's not like a normal music venue where there's just like lots of people and drinking. I run a listening room, so it's seated, and it's really all about storytelling in culture. So anyways, when COVID happened and that got shut down, I just started talking to my brothers, and I said, I got time right now. Let's see if we can get beef from Montana, from the ranch, directly into the hands of people in our state, which you would think wouldn't be a hard thing to do, but it's been quite a journey, and very proud of that. Proud of my brothers. I just get to go around and talk to chefs mostly. Yeah, so I might as well talk about music a little. When I put this together, I was so focused on Montana, like culture and kind of the history, that I should have maybe thought more about, what Montana is today, because that's slightly more interesting and more relevant in a lot of ways. But when people ask me, like, who should I listen to in terms of music, or like what's a representative of like Montana, I would recommend, if you don't already know, his name is Coulter Wall, and he grew up about 2.5 hours north of where I grew up in Canada. I mentioned that earlier, that culturally we're very similar. We just have different accents. And I had Coulter in my venue, which is only 50 seats. It's very small. And I have a podcast as well on Spotify. It's called Live from the Divide. And anyways, in this podcast, I was telling him that if he may have a chance to bring our culture to the world. And about 6 months later, he released an album and has done just that. He's touring all over the world, and that's the best, to me right now, representative of just Western culture and music. So Coulter Wall, for anybody who's interested in checking that out. Okay, so I mentioned I live in Bozeman, Montana. I also mentioned that these small towns in rural Montana are kind of economically struggling, and that's very, very true. At the same time, you've got this massive boom it's been happening for about 20 years. Like Bozeman is very much a destination, but over the past 6 years, like post-COVID especially, it's become this very, very luxury destination location, but also just for people that are moving here full time as well, from all walks of life, but very wealthy and very determined to have be a part of this next movement of growth in Montana, which a lot of people are not happy about this, and I understand that. But I think what I've found myself doing is, instead of just complaining about it or judging it, I have really actively put myself into those conversations with these people, because I find that they're very, not only they open, they're surprised that somebody from Montana is willing to even talk with them. So through that, I've made a lot of great relationships, and I even spent 8 months working with a large land developer as a consultant, which was great, because not only did it provide some income for me and my family, I was able to really help shape kind of how they were thinking about a lot of things. And I didn't need an engineering degree or an architect, anything real fancy, but just that influence is really valued. So I think that's our role in this New West, is to say, that was my ancestors that came here were doing the same thing. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's similar in the sense that they see opportunity and and freedom, and they want to build something of their own. So it's really happening in Montana. I'm going to go back to this slide here because that's definitely the closing, and I think I'm moving way too fast. Yeah, I guess I can talk about. You know what? I'm going to stay on the New West because there's a lot to discuss here in terms of Montana exports. Like that's what we've done really well for the last 30 years is we export some of the best wheat, and we're the largest pea and legume producer in the country, which a lot of people don't know, and beef. I mean, we send our beef all over the world, but what we are really bad at is keeping, like we extract every good resource we have in Montana, we send out of Montana, and that does include our youth, our talent. I should have, off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to think of a lot of examples, but some of a lot of rural kids from Montana have gone on to do extraordinary things in multiple different industries, and like there's something unique about being a rural kid in Montana, that you just have a little extra grit. I don't know what it is, but just statistically, you look at the amount of people that are Montana, and then you look at the amount of those kids that wind up going on to lead very successful careers, to innovate different industries, and a big focus. And this is another thing I'm working on with people of influence in Montana, is how do we keep our resources here, both socially and economically. Like, people are wanting to roll over like we've lost something. I mean, Montana is, and maybe that's why my perspective is different. When people move here from somewhere else, and even if they've been here for 30 years, generally they don't leave these urban centers. They'll stay kind of around here. They might go recreate, but like they don't spend time in rural Montana. They don't quite understand just how much space there is. I mean, we have so much space, endless space, which means endless opportunity for growth. We just need to be a part of that conversation so it remains balanced and just headed in a direction that we all want to go. And if we're not a part of that conversation in terms of the morals and ethics and goals, like it's just not gonna go the way we want, right? Yeah, so I'm trying to think of all the many. I haven't even looked at my notes. I've just been talking. What would you guys, if there's anybody out there, what do you find interesting? That's the other thing, is I never really know what, outside of Yellowstone, especially Yellowstone, the show. I don't know if that's made it over to Russia or not, but man, it had huge impact on Montana. I mean, just massive economically. Have I been to the Dutton Ranch? No, I have not. So that was shot up in western Montana. I did hang out with Rip one day, though. I was in downtown Bozeman, and I ran into him, and I just looked at him and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he's kind of looked at me strange, and then we just became buddies and hung out all day. So that's my Yellowstone story. Cole Hauser, very nice guy. I had friends too that played my 50-seat room, musicians, and a lot of them, because were in the show Yellowstone, their music was, and it changed their lives. So again, it was not the best representative of like Montana or ranch culture at all. In fact, I can't think of one thing that was really quite, accurate. Okay, I'm going through some questions here really quick. Okay, so one of the questions is about our distribution, our beef distribution. Okay, so is there any ways of preparing beef that are special to the region? Man, so Montana is just very like simple, like just not fussy. So like I didn't learn how to cook a steak properly until I started hanging out with all these chefs around Bozeman and learning from them. So yeah, it's just a hot grill and salt and pepper, and some potatoes on the side, and that's the Montana way for sure. The other thing that's funny about growing up on the ranch, at least for us, I can't speak for everyone, but like we didn't have the premium beef like that. That's what you sold to make money. So we would have like, the kind of the older cow that wasn't going to make it through the winter. Like that's what we got. So growing up, I wasn't a huge fan of our steaks or beef. It was not the best. But when we started doing our beef program, my brothers did a great job of really getting that dialed in to where the beef is finished and it's marbled. And the other thing that's interesting is when we were putting that program together, we were thinking about peas being Montana. We're the number one producers of peas, split peas, legumes, and we're like, I wonder if we can finish our cows on peas. And turns out, not only can we do that, we can source our feed directly from our neighbors. And it's very high quality, like very sustainable. Like it puts on good weight for the cows, and the taste is amazing. It's like very savory, as opposed to like when they go to these larger feedlots and they're given primarily, corn and it's kind of like high quality protein versus low quality protein. So they put on weight, but not necessarily healthy weight, if that makes sense. So growing up on a ranch in Montana, what's the biggest difference between life there and what most people imagine ranch life to be like? I, you know, I would say the number one thing is that you don't romanticize it when you have to be out in the elements every day, no matter if it's 20 below or 100 degrees. And so like when I would leave the ranch to go into town or whatever, like I would never wear my cowboy clothes, you know, but they weren't cowboy clothes. They were just like the work, you know, it's like work clothes. Like they were necessary for riding horses or, you know, whatever, cutting hay. So I think most people within the culture, you don't romanticize it because it's real work and it's not necessarily fun. Okay, you said Montana has been changing. Do you have any regrets of the past, the state to welcome? Do you regret any of the past, the state welcome innovations? Oh yeah, no, lots of regret. I mean, strip mining and you know, our fracking and our refineries and they're not necessarily bad. We can just do better. I mean, we have one of the largest Superfund sites in the world. If you guys want to Google or just look up Butte, Montana, it's wild. There's like a massive pit in the middle of this town that is so toxic that, you know, if any bird lands on it, it dies. And it's like leaching into the town. It has been for the last 100 years. So yeah, no, there's a lot. There's a lot we can do better or differently. But I see it as like limitless possibilities for us to innovate. And I think that's coming for sure. And that's why you have to kind of take these multi-million-dollar clubs and resorts, and along with, you know, all the good things that is going to come with that, the influx of people coming here. Because the truth is, when they land in Montana and they look around, they say the same thing that my family said when they arrived here. It's like, this is amazing, you know? So yeah, definitely. I think innovation in industries will be the new industries, or hopefully developing our egg into a more sustainable, you know, either local or regional system is going to be critical to the survival long term. So we're not so dependent on, you know, just world markets. I mean, this isn't really just a Montana story. It's an all of us story. We need better localized food systems and industries that can serve communities outside of these larger urban centers. You said you go to Yellowstone Resort 3 times a year. No, I said I said I've been there because my wife, her best friend's family was like one of the early, they called them homesteaders of this thing called the Yellowstone Club, which back then it wasn't what it is now. It was bought later from the original founders by, you know, one of the largest corporate entities in the world, and kind of expanded into more of that Bill Gates billionaire type of club. So yeah, no, I don't go up there 3 times a year. Although you know what? I take that back. I used to work up there, like all of us in Bozeman. At one point, we've all, had a job in the trades, and that's where the work was. It was always in the Yellowstone Club. So my favorite city in Montana, that's a really tough question. Man, I love Butte. I mentioned it earlier as being like a toxic cesspool, which it is. But the history is just mind-blowing. At one point, it was second to New York City with the largest population of Irish immigrants. And they were pulling millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of copper. It's just, I can't even go into Butte is like a whole hour-long discussion itself. You just got to look it up. It's fascinating. Any Montana songwriters, past or present, who you think deserve way more recognition than they get? Man, just yesterday I was talking with a producer friend of mine about this very topic, and we were talking. I was saying how it's interesting that there isn't like that definable like artist from Montana, like with music. And I think partly it's cultural. Like there's very much this keep your head down, like don't rock the boat type of mentality that comes with growing up in Montana. So it's hard to really like put yourself out there in that way. I think that's definitely a part of it. And the other thing is that because Montana was immigrants and outlaws, I mean, like so many different little communities of immigrants of all kinds, different parts of Montana that are just still to this day, like outside of Bozeman, there's a community called Amsterdam. And it's just to this day, it's Dutch, like Dutch families, Dutch traditions. So that's kind of like all throughout the state. There's like these random little pockets of like immigrant influenced community. So that's why I think even with my music, if I released an album in 2018 and it's country, but it's more folk. And I think the reason why Montanans lean more towards folk is because of that, kind of mixing pot of all these different random cultures. Who lives in Montana today and how diverse is the population? Montana today is full of like generational, farm and ranch and blue collar families, and mostly like outdoor loving, like people that just love to recreate and love to take advantage of all of the all the hiking and camping, and I mean there's like endless things to do year round. A lot of these folks are pretty hardcore, especially in Bozeman. Fly fishing, you name it. Why does Montana have such a small population despite its size? Well, because Montana is the most random place, like for weather mostly. You never know. And I think weather keeps most people out. We'll have just really, really, really harsh winters, and then like this year, of course, or this year we're experiencing the warmest winter, I believe, on record. But today it's 5 degrees and it's snowing. So yeah. Also economic opportunity. I mean, that the big influx over COVID was remote work, right? And that's starting to kind of, teeter a little bit. And with that, we're seeing a slowdown that was even slower population growth than post-COVID. So it's kind of almost reversing, which is, it's just what it is. And so until we get more innovation in economy that can support a bigger population in Montana, I think that's the trend we're going to see. It's just, it's rough. It's not the easiest place to live and commute to work, and it wears thin on people, especially the areas of Montana where the wind blows. That'll get you. How do rural lifestyles shape people's values and daily routines? I think any culture, anywhere that is, working outside, working with the land or with animals, is going to share very similar, values. I like, Russia is amazing in its diversity and in its landmass. And I was thinking about that last night, how, whether it's anywhere in the world, it's that connection to the land and to animals that really does help shape, our routines, because of course you're working, you have to contend with the elements, right? So that's definitely going to affect your routine and your values. Oh, the good, bad, and the ugly. Yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of bad Westerns, in my opinion, but that's one of the good ones for sure. Okay, I think I missed a lot of questions here. Let me go back really quick. Which cities in Montana have the mildest weather in the wintertime? So that's definitely Western Montana. Kind of, it's just close enough towards the Pacific Northwest that, especially around like Flathead Lake is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the country. I had actually a bunch of pictures that I didn't end up putting in here, but one of my grandparents, they retired from farming and bought like a little modest house on Flathead Lake up in Western Montana, and has since, like, there's these mansions around him. It's crazy, but luckily it's still in our family. And the difference between, Bozeman or even where I grew up in Central Montana is you have, it's like, it's a banana belt. Like, there's, it's just a whole different ecosystem up there. Have you lived in Montana your whole life? If so, what keeps you and your family there? I left Montana when I was 18. I was definitely the art kid of the family, and so I was excited to get out into the world and and go explore, which is exactly what I did. I lived in Hawaii when I was 18 on the Big Island, and then from there I traveled. I worked in oil refineries from California all the way up to Montana and back down. And I went to school in Arizona. I lived in Nashville for a period of time. And I could not take Nashville. I was so naive when I was younger. I was offended that they were all like cosplaying this whole culture that I felt so deeply about. But I wasn't planning on staying in Montana. I didn't think I could, right? Because the opportunities just weren't here. And I ended up meeting my wife very randomly, and stayed when we've made our life here. So, and what keeps us here is our ability to stay here, and family, of course. What is your favorite park? One of the national parks you showed earlier, or a state park? Oh, that's a good question. Oh man. So we have a lot of state parks that I do love, but I can't pick just one. So I'd have to say Glacier. Like if I've said that for a long time. Like if people ask me, I'll say just go to Glacier and make sure that you plan. It's not really the type of place you can just roll into and be a normal tourist. You got to kind of look at the hiking, but if you put a little effort into it and just go off the trail even a little bit, there's nothing like it. I don't know if you guys can hear. We had a tree go down, so there's a chainsaw right outside the door happening right now. Most teenagers I don't think I guess I don't know. I don't know if I can speak directly to what most teenagers in Montana want to do. I think for the most part, they want to have the ones that are ambitious and want to have impact kind of understand that in order to find opportunity or to find their growth, they do have to leave Montana. But a lot of them do end up trying to make their way back to Montana at some point. One of my favorite lines is from my great-grandfather when he was one day he was out working in the field, and some Native Americans rode past him and said, "Oh, it's good land, but sometimes it doesn't rain for 7 years." And that is so true. And that's just Montana in a nutshell. It's very volatile, very unpredictable, and yeah, Montana it's not a single story, and hopefully I did an okay job with helping you guys kind of understand the many layers, and also that there's a lot of potential for what Montana is going to look like in the future. And thank you guys so much. I don't see any more questions, so I just really appreciate you tuning in, and I'm very honored for the opportunity to speak with you and to represent Montana here.